privatização é um dos temas favoritos de Lady Thatcher, que insiste em retirar o Estado das atividades produtivas. Ela acha que o Estado não sabe nem deve administrar empresas. E se é dono de algumas, deve vendê-las. Acha bobagem a alegação de que setores como petróleo e telecomunicações são estratégicos e deveriam ficar com o Estado. Quer atividade mais importante do que comida? Pergunta ela retoricamente. E ninguém pensa em estatizar o setor de alimentos. Ela rechaça também o argumento de que estatais não devem ser vendidas porque muita verba pública já foi investida nelas. E para que continuar jogando dinheiro fora, diz ela. Melhor cortar as perdas, garantir verba para o Tesouro e deixar o setor privado administrar. Se não der certo, o risco é do empresário, não do contribuinte. Que papel a senhora vê para o Estado?
Let me just say one thing. Your state does obviously have the task of getting an efficient network of roads. Obviously, that is the part of the duty of the state to get the basic infrastructure, although that doesn't stop you from having some roads which are toll roads, which would not otherwise be built. The task of government. Government has a very big task to do without getting into running industry. Government has to keep the finances of the country sound. That's government's prime job. Only government can do that. It should be able to get inflation down and keep it down, because that is a matter of your money supply and of keeping the money supply such that it's enough to finance your production and to finance a certain amount of growth. And if you get it wrong, you in Brazil knows what happens. So it does that. It should keep public expenditure under control. Everyone knows what that means. You have to keep your expenditure as a family within your income, as a business usually within your income. So why shouldn't governments also operate the same way? And if you do, it has to keep your taxation such that there's incentive for everyone working at every level to work harder, knowing that the level of tax they pay is reasonable and the lion's share of it comes to them to look after their families and their future. That is the whole of the financial aspect. And of course it has to decide the reliefs for investment and so on and the reliefs for savings. Second thing, only government can see that the nation is properly defended. That is government's duty. So the finances, the defense. Thirdly, you must see that there is an adequate and proper education system. That is how the ordinary person pulls themselves up, by having the chance of a good education, regardless of their background. Fortunately, the good Lord scattered talent about quite indiscriminately, and if a person does not have a chance to develop that, then we're not really doing the best by our young people. Now, those are three things. Fourthly, of course, you must have a basic safety net for people who just can't find a job in our sophisticated economy. And fifthly, and I should have perhaps put it much earlier, much higher up, you must have internal order through a system of justice. Now, you can't have freedom without law. That means you have to have a properly equipped police force. It means you have to have independent courts of law and a clear framework of law which your Parliament must make after full and open discussion so that the people know. So the framework of law, and there's a framework of regulations within which industry must operate, which includes the environment, is the task of government. Well, that's pretty big. All the finance, the law, the defense, the education, the safety net. Now, if government did that properly, you need a strong government to do that properly. It wouldn't have time to get into things it ought not to be in.
Muitos brasileiros dizem que até entendem por que a senhora mandou tropas para expulsar os argentinos que tinham invadido as ilhas Malvinas ou Falklands à força. Mas a pergunta ainda existe. Por que insistir na soberania sobre umas ilhas que são tão próximas de Buenos Aires e tão longe de Londres?
It's important. The land is Britain's. The people there are British. The people there don't want to be taken over by the Argentinians or anyone else, and their experience there will mean they never want to be taken over ever again. Are you suggesting that someone else can march into the land of another country and take it by force, and regardless of the wishes of the people, exercise sovereignty over them? That is a philosophy which, if practiced in the rest of the world, there will be no order, no alliances, no friendship, no human rights, no self-determination, no democracy, no nothing. And just look at the number of islands fairly adjacent to someone else's property. It would have to change hands regardless of their wishes. Democracy, self-determination, is about the wishes of those people on that land by a democratic process. And I hope that in the second half of the 20th century, we all agree about that. Otherwise, you're going to multiply the conflicts to a hideous extent.
O ex-secretário de Estado americano Henry Kissinger dizia que o poder é o afrodisíaco supremo. A senhora sente falta do poder?
No, not now. I got used to it for so many, many years. Now one has no longer the power, but one does have influence. No, that period of 11.5 years is over. You can't look back ever. Just go forward in life. Often one's views are asked because one has influence, the influence which comes from experience of your own country, knowledge of dealing with others, and experience which comes from the many situations which you faced, which you didn't expect to have to face. But nevertheless, you managed reasonably well at the time.